Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Agarwal, working as an associate professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College. Today, I am going to take my third lecture of the Unit 3 and the subject KHU 802, which is the Project Management and Entrepreneurship subject. In the 7th SEM, this subject is running as the KHU 702. In my previous lecture, I discussed about the details of the project manager and what are the different characteristics which are needed by a project manager. Now, as the name of the subject shows you that the project management and entrepreneurship. So basically in this, the two things are involved. One is the project management and other is the entrepreneurship. And the question is how these two are related with each other. So what we expect from an entrepreneurship, that entrepreneur is a person who has some idea that he want to convert into a actually running operational project. Okay, so through that actually project, he can deliver the whatever be the idea he has in mind into the actual people. Okay, so the deliverables are very important here. So what is the idea he has in his mind? He need to convert that idea into an operational project. So the project word is come into this. So you can understand that how these two terms are related with each other. So unit 3 is totally related with the project, that what is the meaning of the project, what are the different characteristics of the project, who is the project manager, what are the characteristics which are needed by a project manager. Now in my today's lecture, I will be covering the topic project life cycle. Okay, so you can see that in the project management, the term project is involved, and each and every project, whether it is a normal human life project or it's any project, that project need to undergo a number of the phases. So that is known as the project life cycle. So life cycle, you can say that a life cycle you can say the cycle has a number of the phases involved. Life cycle means from the starting till the termination. So what we are talking about, the life cycle means the number of the phases or the various phases which are involved from the starting till the end. Okay, till the termination, or we can say till the completion of the project. So that is known as the life cycle. And when we append the work project into that, then it becomes as the project life cycle. What it does, this means that what are the different phases which are involved in the development of the project from the starting till the termination. So every project from the conception to the completion. Conception means that the very first point or the idea that we got in our mind, that is known as the conception, the very first idea. Okay, so the every project from the conception till the completion. Okay, from the starting point until we mark that our project is complete, it is in the operational way. Okay, so the project need to pass through a number of the phases in its life cycle, as the life cycle of the living beings. We can say that in our lives also, we need to pass through a number of the phases. If we consider the life cycle, then the human being life cycle, that birth, then we move into the infant state, then we need to move into the kid state, then the adult stage, and then in the adult stage is a long way, and after that we move into the mid phase and then into the old stage. So these are the number of the phases in which a human life is passed through. So that is the life cycle of the human being. Similarly, if we say that every project need to pass through a number of the phases from the starting till the completion. So that is known as the project life cycle. There is no universal consensus on the number of phases in a project life cycle. Means as such, there is no defined or any hard and fast rule that these are the number of the phases in the project life cycle. These number of the phases can be changed. Okay, number of the phases can be added and subtracted from the project depending upon the project nature. Okay, so there is no universal consensus on this, but even though we consider that these are the in a broader sense some number of the phases that we actually expect, or actually those are the phases in which each and every project need to pass through. Okay, so some of the phases, for example, we will see in the next slide. Now what else in this? And understanding of the project life cycle is important. So the question is why we are discussing about this project life cycle, because understanding of the project life cycle is very important to successful completion of the project, as it facilitates to understand the logical sequence of the events in the continuum of progress from the start to finish. Okay, so you can see from this that the project life cycle, it is very important to understand the various phases which are involved in the project life cycle, and to understand what is the actually sequencing, what is the logical sequence, what is the sequence from one phase to the other phase in the project life cycle from the start to the finish. Now, as we are talking about, there are the number of the phases which are involved in the project's life cycle. We generally categorize or take and on a broader sense the phases into the 4 different categories. One is the conceptualization phase, second is the planning phase, third is the execution phase, and fourth is the termination phase. So, as I said that there is no consensus involved in that, but even though we consider that each and every project need to pass through these 4 stages. Conceptualization means the very initial beginning state, then we need to do the planning of the various activities which are involved in the project life cycle, then we need to actually execute that all those activities, means we need to put those activities into the operation, and then finally we move to the termination stage. Okay. Now one more important point is there. Each phase is marked by one or more deliverables. What does this mean is that in the project life cycle, there are the number of the phases are involved. Okay, like these 4 which I mentioned here. Okay, each phase have to be or need to be come out with some outcome. Okay, that outcome may be one or that outcome may be more. So that is known as the deliverables in the technical terms. Okay, so deliverables means what we deliver actually after each phase. So each phase is marked by one or more deliverables, such as that can be like concept note, feasibility report, implementation plan, HRD plan, resource allocation plan, evaluation report, etc., etc. That can be the outcome of these. So this is a simple diagram which is showing the project life cycle, that how it is moving in this project life cycle, how we move from one point to the other point. The one is the project initiation. After that we have the project definition with us. Then we move to the project planning phase, and from that we have the detailed plan of the project. The third phase is the execution phase that I just discussed. That is, and after the execution of all the activities, we need to monitor and control those activities. And finally, we move to the termination phase, which is the project close stage. Okay, and after that, we go for the post implementation reviews. Okay, now what we will do, we will consider each and every phase of the project life cycle one by one. The first phase is conceptualization phase. Conceptualization phase means starting with the seed of an idea. Seed of an idea, seed means the root. Okay. In this phase, basically, this is the first phase of the life cycle, and in the first phase, the first point is that we just start with the initial root of an idea, initial seed of the idea, that what is actually the idea that we want actually to convert into the project, into the operational one. For that, we need to find out, we need to have that particular idea, and we need to start with that particular seed of the idea. Okay, it covers identification of the product or service. Okay, so in this conceptualization phase, we covers that what is the product or service that we actually want to develop. We need to do the pre-feasibility analysis also. we need to do the feasibility analysis also, that whether we actually are able to develop that product or not, we have the funds or not, we have the sufficient time, we have the skilled manpower or not. So we need to do a feasibility analysis in this. So outcome of this is the feasibility report also. Okay, along with that appraisal and approval we need to take from the stakeholders also, whether we go for that project, this project or not. Okay, so as we see in the conceptualization phase, we need to start with the seed of an idea, means what is actually the idea, the root of the idea. We need to identify the product or service that we actually want to develop. We do the pre-feasibility and the feasibility analysis of the project, and after that we need, based on all this analysis, we need to take the appraisal and the approval from the various stakeholders. Okay. The project idea is conceptualized with initial consideration of all possible alternatives for achieving the project objectives. Okay. So in the conceptualization phase, we actually consider the various possible alternatives that we can have for the development of the project, or to achieve the various project objectives. So what are the different alternatives are there? As the idea becomes established, a proposal is developed setting out the rationale, the various methods, estimated cost, benefits and other details for appraisal of the stakeholders. After reaching a broad consensus on the proposal, the feasibility dimensions are analyzed in detail. Okay, so you can see in this that there are the number of the things which are involved in that. As we see that in this the idea become established, in which we actually establish the proposal based on the idea of the project. Okay, and along with that we need to find out the various methods which are involved, what are the estimated cost, what are the benefits and the other details to take the appraisal from the stakeholders. And after reaching a broad consensus on the proposal, the feasibility dimensions are analyzed in detail. Okay, so the outcome you can see from this conceptualization phase is the feasibility report and the appraisal and approval of the stakeholders. Feasibility studies includes time analysis, include the money, the cost analysis. Okay, so there are the number of the feasibility studies or the various dimensions from which you need to look into the what are the feasible aspects of this project. The next phase in the project life cycle is the planning phase. What actually we do in the planning phase is that in this phase the project structure is planned based on project appraisal and approvals. Okay, so in the planning phase the project structure is need to be identified, and based on that the project appraisal and approvals are taken. Detailed plans for activity, finance and resources are developed and integrated to the quality parameters. What does this mean? That after having or after planning the various activities which are involved in after identifying, you can say, the various activities which are involved in this project, we need to have a detailed plan for the activities, for the finance and the resources which are developed and integrated to the quality parameters. Okay, in the process, major tasks which are need to be performed in this phase which are identified are in the planning phase. Basically, one is the identification of activities and their sequencing. Basically, in the project life cycle, we are having 4 phases. So, in the second phase, which is the planning phase, in this phase, we need to identify the various activities. And in those activities, we need to find out the sequencing between those activities. For example, suppose if we take an example like Ola. Okay. So, initially they have into their mind an idea that number of the persons are facing the problem, that how they actually book the vehicle, whether it is an auto rickshaw, it's a taxi or it's a bike, to move from one place to the other place. It's a difficult task to find out, and it depends upon the weather to weather also, that how much trouble you face, actually how much you need to struggle to find a vehicle. And based on that also you need to find the price. The price is also a big factor on that time. So they identified that this is the problem which actually the people are facing. Okay, so what they did, they identified this problem and they actually convert this idea from the conceptualization phase till the full completion phase. So for that the various activities are involved in that. So those activities, actually finding out all those activities come under the planning phase. Okay, that हम कितने लोगों को से बात करना है, how many people, how many taxi, how actually we contact to the taxi drivers, how they all contacted through the app, how the prices are decided. So all these activities need to be tackled down. So for that, basically in this planning phase, identification of the activities is there, and we need to find out a logical sequence between those activities also, that which activities need to be performed first, then which activity need to be performed, then which activity need to be performed. So in this way we need to find out a logical sequencing between various activities also. Next is we need to find out the time frame for the execution of each and every activity. Okay, for each activity, what is the time frame for the execution of that activity is also need to be find out. Okay, suppose we have find out, suppose the 10 activities we need to perform in our project. Okay, now to find out the total time that we need to, that we actually need to have to complete the full project. What we need to do, we need to find out the time frame for each and every activity, and based on that we will calculate the total time. Okay, next is the estimation and budgeting. Estimation and budgeting means we need to find out the estimation for each and every activity, and we need to find out the budget. Based on that, how much time each and every activity will take, based on that we need to find out the budget of that activity also. Next point is staffing. Staffing means to complete or to execute each and every project, like we need to have the number of the people in our team. Okay, so we need to develop a team, a good team, a skilled team, devoted team, motivated team. Okay, for that we need to hire a number of the persons in the different teams that are required to complete this project. Okay, to convert this project from idea into an operational one. Okay, so what are the various activities or tasks need to be performed in the planning phase? One is the identification of the various activities, and we need to find out the sequence between those activities. Along with that, we need to find out the time taken, an estimated time that should be taken for each and every activity, so that we can calculate the total time of the project. Next, we have to make a budget plan for the project. Okay, that we also need to have a number of the teams, we need to hire a number of the persons, skilled persons, so which are actually help us in developing this project. Okay, now after finding out all these activities, their sequencing, their time frame, what is the budget involved, and those, all these reports are mentioned into a detailed report which is known as the detailed project report, which is known as the DPR. Okay, so DPR specify various aspects of the project, okay, to facilitate execution in this phase. So the various aspects of the project which we had found, which we actually finalized during the planning phase, they all are reported or they are all documented into a detailed project report, which is known as the DPR. So we can say that the deliverable of the planning phase is the DPR, which mentions all the activities, their time frame, their budget in that particular document. Now the next phase is the execution phase. After conceptualization and the planning phase, we moving towards the execution phase. This phase of the project witnesses the concentrated activity where the plans are put into operation. We just discussed that into the previous slide, that a number of the activities we need to find out that are required to complete this project. Okay, now After just identifying and planning, we need to actually put do all those activity into the operation. Okay, so that we treat or this operational part as the under comes the execution phase. Okay, so in this phase, basically what we see all those concentrated activity are put actually into the operation. And what else we need to do? We need to monitor each and every activity. Whatever be the activities we put into the operation, we need to monitor those activities and we need to control those activities also. Along with monitoring and controlling, we need to make a coordination between those activities so that ultimately whatever be our project objectives, they can be achieved. Okay, so each and every activity that is put into the operation, they need to be monitored, controlled and put into a coordination with each other so that the project objectives can be achieved. Now, along with this, what are the important activities we can consider in this phase? The first one is communicating with stakeholders. As I discussed with you that who are all the stakeholders? All those persons who are directly or indirectly connected with your project. They all are the stakeholders or they are affected directly or indirectly by your project. They all come under the category of the stakeholders, like your public, okay, your customers, your employees, your financiers, your owners, yourself. Okay, so all those are the stakeholders which actually need to be communicated about the various activities, about the various plans that we had identified. Okay, so we need to communicate all these things with the stakeholders. Second point is reviewing progress. Reviewing progress means that whatever be the activities we are performing in this phase, to actually put the idea into the operation, we need to review the progress of each and every activity also. I already mentioned that we actually need to monitor and control each and every activity. So in this, basically what we are doing, we are also reviewing the progress of the project and each and every activity also. Okay. Next point is monitoring cost and time. Monitoring cost and time is that we saw in the previous phase that we did some kind of the budgeting. Okay, so budgeting means we are actually finding out the time, we are actually finding out the cost, and we are actually doing some kind of the budgeting of the time also. A time frame also we need to identify for each and every activity along with the total time. So as we see here in the planning phase that the budgeting is done along with the time frame. Okay, so here we also need to monitor the cost and time, because for each and every project cost and time is very important. We need to deliver the project onto the time, okay, on the correct time. So the time that we have identified, we need to operate each and every activity as per that time out. Okay, now second is cost. Cost is very important. We must adhere with the time, okay, and we must need to complete that activity in the allotted time, otherwise it will increase the cost of the project, okay, and it will disturb our budget also. The next point is controlling quality. Controlling quality means that it's not like that just to finish out the work on time, okay, or we are just doing the activity without considering the quality or the various factors that we need to be taken care into. Okay, we need to control the quality also. We need to work on the quality also, that for each and every activity quality should be maintained. That's the one point of this phase also. And then next is the managing changes. Managing changes means whatever be the changes that are needed, they need to be managed. Okay, means if we find out that in any activity that changes are there, then we need to manage those changes and we need to incorporate those changes also. Okay, so the various activities which are involved in this phase are communicating with the stakeholders, we need to review the progress, we need to monitor the cost and time, we need to control the quality of the various activities, and we need to manage the changes which are involved in that. Okay, so these are the execution, main activities of the execution phase. Now the fourth phase of this is the termination phase. So we just saw that there are the four major phases which are involved in the project life cycle. One is the conceptualization phase, the second is the planning phase, the third is the execution phase, and the fourth is the termination phase. So basically this is the phase which actually marks the project as the completion point. So this phase marks the completion of the project, wherein the agreed deliverables are installed and the project is put into the operation with arrangements for follow-up and evaluation. Okay, so this is the phase when we say that our project is in the completion stage. Completion stage means that whatever be the deliverables we agreed upon, they are put and they are installed, and they are actually we have in our hand, and we can say that the project is put into the operation with all the arrangements in which we can follow up and we can have the post maintenance of the project. Okay, so guys, in today's lecture I have covered the project life cycle and the four phases of the project life cycle. Thank you very much. Thank you.